lightning displays. The helplessness felt by many victims turned to despair when day came. Scope of damage was better known. But when everybody began pitching in, the despair turned to hope. They realized that it's going to be hard, but they're alive and they can pull it all together. But it's going to take some help from state officials and also help from neighbors as well.
It's remarkable when you look at a scene like this, people survived.
Within 25 to 30 seconds, it was all over.
Well, I just thank God we're still here, you know.
Right now, let's go to Harrison, where Carol Williams is at. Carol?
Thanks, Randy. Bob Allen is with me, too. And, Bob, you had a chance to go out and look at the damage that the storm did.
Carol, we were out early this morning. When I say we, I was with the people from the Hamilton County Civil Defense Agency and John Robinson and a team of weather forecasters from the National Weather Service in Cincinnati. And we were able to follow the path the tornado took, and we found out just how really powerful that Saturday night tornado was as it went here through Harrison. Starting here in Harrison, these men from the Civil Defense and the National Weather Service inspected the path of Saturday night's tornado.
We're getting an idea of each place that it touched down, the extent of the damage, the width of the path, and the length of the path, and how much damage there is to rate it on this F scale from 0 to 5.
On that scale, 0 is the weakest tornado. 5 is the strongest. Parts of the tornado that hit our area reached 4, or wind speeds in excess of 200 miles an hour.
Top half of the house is gone.
Yeah.
And not just the roof, top of the house.
Okay.
Well, so I would say there are 3s or 4s.
So tornadoes can gain and lose power as they travel. They can pick up tremendous strength when they travel over land like this, with no large hills or buildings.
Nice flat area doesn't provide any friction to break up the formation.
So instead of breaking up, the tornado rips through an area, then bounces up into the air and touches down again somewhere else. This map shows how the tornado hit Greenhaven Court in Springfield Township, then traveled several miles away to the Ameristop in New Burlington. Total travel time, 2 minutes. The tornado bounced back into the air, starting losing some power, and then hit a subdivision a couple of miles away. But before it got there, this twister did a whole lot of damage. This is the Ameristop store in New Burlington, which is in Springfield Township. Now, at this point, the tornado is near the end of its path, a little after 11:30, with winds about 150 miles an hour. When it ripped the roof off of this store, it was about a Category 3 tornado. The path the tornado took was almost exactly a straight line. Here's why.
Tornadoes that occur in the spring and early summer move from southwest to northeast. That's where the wind blows. Later in the year, late summer and fall, it usually goes from west to east.
Carol, basically, when the tornadoes first started Saturday night, late Saturday night, it took about an hour and 50 minutes where they started around Bedford, Indiana. By the time the tornadoes really lost all their energy and basically stopped or died down. But in terms of minutes, we gained anywhere from 100 miles an hour to winds in excess of 200 miles an hour in a moment, and in moments from when it left Bright, Indiana, through Harrison, and then into Springfield and Coleraine Township in Cincinnati. And of course, not just moments and not just fluctuating wind speeds, which means basically a storm or storms of tornado that fluctuate in power and, of course, in devastation.
That's amazing, Bob. And actually, you know, as bad as the damage has been in Ohio, it was worse in Indiana. Stephen Hill went to Dearborn County today, and he shows us how terrible the destruction was there.
This is one of more than a dozen tornadoes that devastated areas of southern Indiana 2 nights ago. And this is the aftermath. Crumbled electrical transmission towers, the remains of tossed cars and trucks, and flattened brick houses. Despite the destruction here on Mount Pleasant Road in Logan, there was only one person hurt, no deaths. That's because people like Edna Richardson managed to run for cover before the tornado hit.
Eric Warren came on your newscast, and he said, take to your basements immediately. And I threw down everything I had and started to the basement. My son called, and he said, Mom, get to the basement quick. And I threw the telephone over to the side and started down the steps, and there's 12 steps, and I only made 10 of them.
When Edna reached the 10th stair in her basement, the tornado ripped off the roof and walls of her home. Edna lost everything. In nearby Bright, Indiana, people like the Gins were able to salvage some belongings. but many houses, perhaps as many as 50, were destroyed. The Red Cross has set up a shelter at the Bright Christian Church, offering the tornado victims food and a place to sleep. Despite the devastation of the tornadoes, many in southeastern Indiana say they are lucky. Listen to the words of Edna Richardson.
But I was lucky. And I
still consider yourself lucky?
Oh, God, I'm alive, you know? I'm alive.
Stephen Hill, Channel 9 News in Dearborn County, Indiana.
Thanks, Stephen. What you're hearing right now is the sound of chainsaws, which, if you were in Harrison today, is a very common sound. But now, talking about the weather, Bob, since that storm moved through here, we've had an incredible change since Saturday night.
Carol, you know, whenever we talk about tornado watches or warnings, we always say that a watch or warning means that conditions are favorable for either the development of severe storms, tornadoes, or that they have developed. Saturday night, we had the most prime example of the conditions being right. We had warm, humid, unstable air sitting over the entire tri-state area with a fast-moving cold air mass moving toward us. That spawned the storms, which spawned the tornadoes. Now what we have is the back end, the cold air. Still some cloudy skies. Tonight, the clouds will move out, but we're still going to be left with the cold air. We could be frosty in many areas. We should be down 42 or 43 degrees by tomorrow morning, and then we'll have sunshine tomorrow morning.
All right, thanks a lot, Bob. We'll have more later. And, Randy, I'll be talking in just a few minutes with the mayor of Harrison, Mayor Harry Rolfes, and he'll tell us how cleanup is going and what kind of help they still need. Randy?
Thanks, Carol and Bob. Now, watching a storm destroy your home is frightening, but it's only just the beginning, because cleaning up, finding a temporary home, and dealing with the insurance company can be pretty frightening, too. Joe Webb spent the day with a Coleraine Township family that is doing just that, and he has their story. Okay, I'm told the story is not ready yet. Now, as I told you at the beginning of this newscast, we have a lot of information to pass along to you. So we want to tell you that coming up in our 6 o'clock news in about 22 minutes or so, we will continue with the tornado coverage with the latest damage estimates that we've received, and they're rather frightening. Some insurance assurance for those of you waiting for the army of insurance adjusters out there to arrive, and also lines of help from various neighbors in the tri-state as the volunteer effort gets cranked up.
I am lucky, aren't I?
We have Joe's story ready now about a family that has found a lot of frustration coming out of the tornado damage after their home was hit by the storm on Saturday night.
Tim and Lori Burgess's home is now part of the Coleraine Township landscape. They have not lost their sense of humor.
I wish we'd known you'd coming, we would have cleaned up.
Laugh or cry. Right now, I'd rather laugh.
But getting back to normal after losing your home is no laughing matter. The house is likely a total loss, but Tim has been told not to touch anything until an insurance adjuster looks it over. By and large, the Burgesses were stuck today, stuck with a big project they couldn't start, no home, and no insurance money to find another place to stay. By mid-afternoon, Tim and Lori's good sense of humor was getting a little bit strained, because unlike a good neighbor, the insurance company still wasn't here.
Still waiting on insurance. Tell me I'm top on the priority list, and it doesn't seem to me that way.
But by 3 o'clock, the Burgesses' luck seemed to change. The dumpster they'd ordered arrived. That let them clean up the yard, but the house still sat untouched. But only a few minutes later, the insurance adjuster arrived and told Tim and Lori everything would be all right. And she had some money to back that up.
They finally showed up, and she was real nice, real nice. Generous check. Generous check.
And that can do wonders for anyone's sense of humor. Joe Webb, Channel 9 News.
Okay, now here are some of the stories making national and international headlines this evening. Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev makes friends in the weather. We're going to go back out live to Carol Williams, who is in Harrison right now. She's with Harrison's mayor, as you can see. And Carol, I guess while everyone's celebrating the fact no lives were lost, no one's looking forward to this cleanup job that's ahead.
Randy, I'm with Mayor Harry Rolfes, who has not had much sleep in the last couple of days. I think that's safe to say.
That's correct. I've been up 30 hours at one stretch and probably been a long day today.
What is your top priority right now?
Well, our top priority was a concern for the people in the area, that none of them were injured and that they have housing and they have food and anything we can do in that respect. Our next priority is to get the debris cleaned out of the area to make it safe for people to move back and forth, and that we can restore all the services that these people need down here.
Is it correct to say you still need volunteers?
We could use volunteers in the cleanup. We have a lot of debris to pick up, and I can't really say right now the percentage of the debris that we've already removed, but there's still a lot to be taken care of.
What should people do if they want to help?
If people want to help, they should go to the command station. We're using the police department as a command station. They should register up there so we know who's in the area, and they'll give them a permit to come down here and to volunteer to assist our crews that are in the field here working.
How about people who need help? What's there for them?
People that need help, we have agencies set up in the community center. They can go there and talk to the agencies that we have already established in the area, and they'll direct them in the right direction.
Okay. You say you've been mayor for 19 years. You've never seen anything like this,
No,
I
this
bet.
is the most devastating thing that ever happened to this community. Yes.
All right. Well, good luck. I know you've got a lot of work to do. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And now, Bob Allen is with us to tell us more about what we can expect in the future.
Carol, you know, this, of course, first of all, I want to say this is a personal observation, as Harry, the mayor of Harrison, just said. And he told me this is the most devastating thing that he's ever seen, the most devastating thing that, of course, Harrison residents have ever seen. He knows this is his town. These are his people. These are friends, relatives of his. A personal observation on my part, you know, the backyard barbecue, every Friday night that we have during the summer, we are invited to go to people's backyard, to enjoy their company, to be with viewers of Channel 9, and I look forward to those. Right now I'm in somebody's backyard who I don't know. I don't know their names, and I feel funny being in their backyard uninvited. I feel sad looking at a backyard that I'm not sure if it's the front yard or the backyard. What was a house? What was a bathroom? And if you can relate to it, standing in your kitchen where you prepare breakfast, prepare dinner, we see houses around here where people stood, where they made dinner one time that they won't be able to have dinner until they rebuild their homes.
Oh, it's really sad. You can see somebody's kitchen out in the open right there.
Now, we were here this morning, as we mentioned earlier, with the Civil Defense people of Hamilton County and the National Weather Service, the team headed up by John Robinson, and that was more official business. And now, taking it back to a little bit more of an official business-wise, I want to show you exactly, you folks at home, where this tornado started and where it ended when it came through Harrison. Right across the river, over that hill, about 11 miles away, is Bright, Indiana, and you can see the treetops there where the tornado did come over the hill. It came over the river, the Whitewater River, and of course, then one of the major impact points was right here on this part of town of Harrison, and this is where it would be a Category 4 storm, or close to it, and we're talking about winds close to 200 miles an hour. Now, why I say one of the areas of impact is because here's an area where there were 2 homes. Now, there was a family of 5 in the one house, basically, which is just to your left, and this family does not have a basement. This house does not have a basement. You're told, under normal circumstances, to go to your basement. What do you do? What did they do? They went to the center section of the house, a very wise move. They all huddled together, but basically after this tornado touched down, completely demolishing their house, they were then buried under a teepee of their home. That's how they were saved. The house to the right, a man took his child, put the child in a tub, put his wife on top of the child, then he himself got into the bathtub on top of his wife and child. They miraculously were saved, as their house was then devastated, total. The path in a tornado then went through the rest of Harrison and on its way to Cincinnati in a very short period of time, fluctuating from 100 miles an hour to over 200 miles as far as wind speed. That's why it's so devastating. Our weather, we will continue to be cloudy for the rest of the night tonight because we are on the very back end of this dangerous storm, devastating storm. And because there is such a degree of difference between what it was Saturday, warm and a little muggy, we're going to go very cold now into the lower 40s for our overnight temperature. Tomorrow it should clear. We'll still be a little cool. We should get back into the 70-degree mark. Once again, we are in Harrison. Today we were from Bright, Indiana through Harrison, basically tracking the path of this devastating tornado. And I hate to be the one that comes out to do weather, but another thing that the mayor of Harrison pointed out, that you people are the ones that are to be congratulated for doing what you felt was right, to do what you felt was safe, and therefore there are no fatalities. You can watch as your house is being restructured through tears, but at least you're here with us to see it, even if it is through tears. Randy?
Those last-second decisions were life-saving ones, certainly.
Most definitely.
All right, thanks, Bob. Well, next, Denny Jansen with sports, and he says there's a giant move ahead for a Moeller High School grad. On the Channel 9 News at 6 o'clock. We'll go back live to Harrison as the full extent of the damage there settles in. We'll also show you other parts of the tri-state that suffered damage, from Indiana to Claremont County. And you always hope your insurance will cover your losses in a disaster, but will it? We'll follow the man with an answer.